Hi everyone, Happy New Year and welcome back to Taiwan Salad. So in my last video, I talked about how celebrities keep stepping on the same geopolitical landmine when it comes to China and Taiwan. And one of the examples that I mentioned was John Cena and his Bing Chilling fame.
早上好，中国！现在我有冰淇淋，我很喜欢冰淇淋。
And it turns out that John Cena has been on a bit of a media blitz recently since retiring from the WWE.
And his name is John Cena!
And so of course he went on Joe Rogan, and then in that interview he actually talked about his Taiwan is a country incident. Huge shout out to Jason Lin in the comments for flagging that interview. And so like any responsible YouTuber, I watched the interview, and today I just want to pull out some especially revealing clips.
What was the not knowing the culture aspect of
So
it?
man, I got put in a bit of a hot spot with I made a pact to myself when I was like, okay, I feel fluent. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do 70% of my media in Mandarin. And I gotta say, I did it. Like, I went over there, spoke, people were taking off the translator headphones, like life was good, everything was great. At the very end of the day, as with all these press tours, you do like a bunch of prompter reads. My bad, I didn't check the reads because it's like an end of a 10-hour day, you do a million of these things. And one of them said like, hey, Taiwan, see this, and the opinion described Taiwan as a country. I just said it, left, everybody was cool, I did my thing. Like, I read the prompt, it was like a Ron Burgundy moment. Like, go fuck yourself, San Diego. It's like the most offensive thing you can say. So I'm like, man, good job, John. You said you did 70% and people understood what you were talking about. And then they put that out and everybody was like, what the fuck did you just say?
First of all, John Cena is definitely not alone here. In my last video, I talked about NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang and also actress Michelle Yeoh, and how each of them had their own Taiwan is a country incident. What's interesting is how differently they recovered. Jensen Huang's recovery was pretty graceful in my opinion, but John Cena's recovery was pretty clunky.
我必须说，现在就是很重要。我爱更尊重中国，更中国人。
But up until now, even with all of the online commentary, we didn't really know what was going on in John Cena's head. But then on the Joe Rogan interview, he reveals what he was thinking at the time and what he decided to do to avoid this type of situation happening again.
That, and now like people are like, oh man, can you speak Mandarin for this? I just won't do it. It's a skill that I have, but it's a skill that's going to remain with me because it's I don't understand. I don't have the depth of field to know what to call that place in that region of the world, and I haven't done enough research, and I don't have the wisdom, and I don't have like the cultural fluency, you know. So it was a cool lesson. It sucked because I thought I was just trying to do something good, but it was a cool lesson.
Was it really that big of a deal?
Man, I thought like I was filming Peacemaker season 1, and when they came out with all of this stuff, I went directly to James Gunn and was like, hey man, if you have to fire me, I understand.
Wow.
And
it was that serious?
Yeah.
So it's pretty clear that John Cena was traumatized by his slip-up, which almost ended his career. And I understand that he's traumatized, but what I really don't understand is how not speaking Mandarin would solve the problem. I want to be really clear here that language is not the issue. The word for country in Mandarin is 国家, and whether you call Taiwan a country or a 国家, you're going to make a lot of Chinese people angry. Michelle Yeoh and Jensen Huang both called Taiwan a country, not a 国家, and they got in trouble too. I remember one time during COVID, there was a shipment of Pfizer vaccines to Taiwan which got delayed, and this was because the contract between the manufacturer BioNTech and Taiwan actually listed Taiwan as a country. So big yikes that could have been prevented if anyone on Pfizer's staff had had even the most basic geopolitical knowledge of the region and left the word country off of the document. I'm open to work, by the way. This is not a language issue. It's a geopolitical issue. And in the case of the Pfizer vaccines, it literally became a life and death issue.
I think I might have been the only guy almost to get canceled for doing his homework. You know, like we're trying to learn and try to do something, but the cool takeaway, you know, we can learn from every mistake. My mistake was just because you know the language doesn't mean you know the culture.
Did they even refer to it as Taiwan? I think they referred to it as Chinese Taipei, right?
Okay, brief side note because I have to react to Joe Rogan here. This Chinese Taipei comment is pretty out of the blue. I guess it's a pretty classic Joe Rogan comment, honestly, because it sounds both informed and uninformed at the same time. It's a somewhat obscure fact about Taiwan that they go by the name Chinese Taipei at the Olympics. But this name is limited exclusively to international sporting events, and it exists because of intense political pressure from the People's Republic of China. No one casually refers to Taiwan as Chinese Taipei in everyday life. Not in China, not in Taiwan, not in the US. So please don't listen to Joe Rogan and start going around and calling Taiwan Chinese Taipei in everyday life. And also stay tuned for a video I'm working on where I explain why former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's dad played a central role in getting Taiwan stuck with this bizarre name that they've been forced to use in the Olympics for the last 40 years. That's right, even Canada gets involved here. Okay, now let's go back to John Cena.
I'm not even thoroughly fluent on the U.S. policy. I think it's like territorial ambiguity or some shit like that. Like it's so weird and it's so fragile. And I got into some water I shouldn't have been swimming in.
What John Cena means here is strategic ambiguity. And this has been the official United States policy since 1979, when the US government switched official diplomatic recognition from the Republic of China in Taiwan, this place, to the People's Republic of China, in this place. The idea is that the United States deliberately doesn't outright state whether they would defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion. The goal here is deterrence, which means to discourage China from invading Taiwan and to discourage Taiwan from declaring independence. In practice, this means that the United States is intentionally unclear about their stance toward Taiwan, but the Chinese government is very clear about their belief that Taiwan is part of China. Taiwan's own messaging depends on who is in power. Some administrations are more ambiguous, but Taiwan's current president, Lai Ching-te, is very clear in stating that Taiwan is a sovereign country. And this, of course, makes Beijing furious. So this is all pretty confusing, but also it's not that confusing. John Cena's Taiwan comment happened 4 years ago, and I find it hard to believe that in all of that time, even with a comment that almost ended his career, John Cena never decided to sit down even for an hour to better understand cross-strait geopolitics. I think more likely is that John Cena got in trouble talking about this before, and now in this Joe Rogan interview, he's trying to kind of brush it off and change the topic so that he doesn't get in trouble talking about it again.
But here's the thing, I do appreciate you saying like, it's not your fault. That's not true. It was my fault. And I think that's when I can start to work on like, well, what did I learn from this? And I could easily blame a PR, an assistant. I could say somebody had a target on my back, all that stuff. Once I realized I could still go on working, I really made a lot of people angry. And for that I'm sorry. Like, again, I was just trying to...
That's crazy, just by saying that Taiwan's a country.
In Chinese, though.
Right.
You know, like those are murky waters to begin with, you know.
What John Cena really learned from his Taiwan incident is to never talk about Taiwan politics. And then we have Joe Rogan, who seems to know one interesting fact about Taiwan and then stopped there. It kind of seems like strategic ambiguity has caused a massive PR problem. Even well-meaning, globally famous people with access to the best information in the world can't figure out how to talk about Taiwan. And there's also people like Jensen Huang who are well informed on the issue, and even he messed it up. To tell the truth, watching this John Cena interview actually makes me a little bit sad. Because what happened is that he said one single word wrong, and then after that the reaction was so extreme that he decided to step back and stop speaking Mandarin in public. He frames it as being too hard to understand different cultures well enough. The risk of backlash is just too high and he might get canceled. It's a pretty defeatist and feudalistic conclusion. He's saying, I did my homework, I tried to learn the language, I tried to engage, and look where it got me. It reminds me of how some Americans avoid talking about race and racism altogether because the topic is so highly charged that they worry that anything they say might get them in trouble. And then the result is that we drift farther and farther into our separate worlds and understand each other even less. In an ideal world, I actually wish people would learn more languages and try to communicate with each other and ask questions and not overreact when people say something wrong. Because even saying the wrong thing is a good first step to trying to understand different cultures and political views. And if we can't even try to understand each other better, where does that leave us? And also I want to say that John Cena's Mandarin is iconic. He single-handedly got Bing Chilling into the global lexicon.
Watch out, watch out, watch out! His name is John Cena!
John Cena also said himself that the misunderstanding was not really about language. It was about culture or about politics. And if language is not the problem, then why would speaking less Mandarin solve the problem? It actually seems like the language could be a useful tool for better understanding the culture and the politics. So John Cena, if you're watching this, please keep speaking Mandarin. There's a lot of us that study Mandarin, but we're still terrified to open our mouths in public. In the meantime, you just go for it in front of your millions of fans. And that's actually pretty cool. So maybe not speaking Mandarin is the smart PR move, but it also means that we lose one more imperfect, well-meaning attempt at cross-cultural communication. I mean, seriously, is there anything that brought together people in the Chinese-speaking world more than Bing Chilling? I don't think so.
Ice cream? 早上好，中国！现在我要冰淇淋，我喜欢冰淇淋。
Okay, so if you want a deeper dive on any of these issues, I cover them in much more detail in my video on Jensen Huang and Taiwanese identity. And there's also a section in that video about John Cena, and of course it's called Bing Chilling. So check it out when you have a chance, and thanks so much for watching.